Hi, I'm Kevin from the SDP. Before I begin, I'd like to dedicate this episode to a Miss Hope Chapman, whom most of you know as Jezu Otaku. Jezu Otaku. I still don't know how to pronounce her name. If you don't know, she has just announced her departure from doing anime review videos for thatguywiththeglasses.com. Apparently, she's pursuing other pursuits, including writing reviews for AnimeNewsNetwork.com and working on a visual novel game called Lovely Little Thieves, so go check that out. Can't say I'm not disappointed, because she was unique among the internet's reviewers, what with how she could be so analytical and at the same time be capable of great snark. I could be describing anyone with those words. Well, it was different the way she did it. A little fun fact, by the way, I've been planning this episode for a couple of years now, and at one point I even invited J.O. to make a cameo appearance on this show. However, she never emailed me back. All the same, I wish her the best in her future endeavors. That said, let's get to business. Enjoy the show! Hi, welcome to the SDP. I'm Kevin, the happy hipster.
僕はイチゴアニメのKyotoホストだ。
Riddle me this. Have you ever heard of the anime series called Princess Tutu?
Hi.
Well, of course you have, but not our viewers. I assume.
It's supposed to be this awesome magical girl type show which takes the roles of classic fairy tales and turns them on their head, brilliantly combining the elements of dance, fairy tales, and classical music into a genre-bending experience. There's just one problem.
When I said dance, I meant ballet. Now, I'm not the world's most masculine guy, but I have to draw the line somewhere. Okay, I suppose I could drum up the patience for ballet if I really want to. I mean, I know it's not all tutus and tiptoes, but try telling that to the fellas. Either way, my psyche couldn't take it, and considering that I already identify as a little monster, a brony, a moonie, and whatever a Totally Spies fan calls himself, that's saying something. Now, I strongly believe that guys should be able to enjoy girlish things, and girls should be able to enjoy guy-ish things without being labeled a traitor to their sexuality, but I think I'm gonna have to work my way up to Princess Tutu, if at all.
バカ君。本物の男はプリンセスチュートを見てよ。
Real men are also three-dimensional, so it's kinda not your place to argue. Not that I'd even try to review it anyway. Apart from my aforementioned misgivings, there is also a fantastic review on the subject done a few years ago by Jezu Otaku, and with the knowledge and insight she exhibited therein, there's no way I could one-up her. So, what else has its creator, Mr. Junichi Sato, worked on? Ichigo?
佐藤さんはセーラームーンアニメを描けた。
Why am I not surprised? Anything else?
彼はまたそのアニメを制作したカレイドスターだ。
Indeed. As it happens, I am familiar with that anime, and at the risk of spoiling this episode, I love it very much.
でも、これは本当に良いでか?
Good question. Perhaps I have an episode after all. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Kaleido Star, and it's the subject of today's review.
Our series stars Sora. No, not that one. Not that one either. That's her, Sora Naegino, a teenage Japanese girl who emigrates to America to join the Kaleido stage. What is Kaleido stage? It's part circus, a little bit musical theater, a little bit magic show, and so much more.
Basically, it's Cirque du Soleil on drugs. And the drug is anime.
Cirque du Soleil はアメリカ人が見分けることができる唯一の例でか?
That just goes to show the stranglehold the Ringling Brothers racket has on our country's market.
In the first episode, Sora spends her first day in America getting lost, getting her legs checked out by some pervert, and getting her luggage stolen. She gives chase on some roller skates, think the skateboard scene from Back to the Future on steroids, again, the steroids are anime, and as a result she catches the thief, but ends up missing the Kaleido stage auditions for her efforts. This comes to the displeasure of its current star, Layla Hamilton, who won't let her try out for the sole purpose of her being a little bit late. But it turns out the assumed pervert from before is really the founder of the circus, Kaleido, who puts her in the show at the last minute. Despite a rough start, and yet another dismissal from Layla, Kalos intervenes and lets her stay on as part of the Kaleido stage cast. But Layla intends to put Sora through the ringer before letting her share her spotlight, so Sora must push her body to the limit and rely on the friendship of whomever she can manage in order to survive. Structurally, this series is divided into arcs of 4 or 5 episodes or so, each focusing on Sora's attempts to master a certain act. Whether it's on the trampoline, the tightrope, or the flying trapeze, no matter what the circumstances, Sora tries her darndest to prove herself to people such as Layla and the manipulative Yuri Killian. Despite the occasional bout of sexual tension with characters such as Yuri, Sora never shows any romantic interest to speak of with any of the boys. Her raison d'etre is performing to entertain and/or inspire the audience. She is, above all other qualities, selfless, and in the hands of a lesser writer this would run the risk of portraying her as a pretty little perfect Mary Sue. But her idealistic desires are used effectively, clashing with the harsh realities forced upon her by her peers. Sora is not immune to being consumed by the metaphorical darkness, but she always has a way of bringing the light of hope back into play. Yeah, the drama can get pretty heavy throughout this show, but comic relief comes in the form of Fool, the self-professed spirit of the stage and our exposition fairy. Fool can only be seen by people who are true stars of the Kaleido stage or are on their way to becoming such. This leads to some intriguingly realistic reactions when Sora first lays eyes on him and, instead of accepting him right off the bat, thinks she's lost her mind. But once his presence has a chance to settle in, he becomes a living barometer of Sora's psychological state. If she loses her ability to see him, then you know trouble's going down. He also presents the audience, and occasionally characters, with fairly obvious foreshadowing in the form of fortune-telling, either of the tarot card or astrology variety. And to round out his character, he has a running gag of making perverted suggestions to Sora, for which he either gets locked into a cupboard or punched into the sky Team Rocket style. The only major character who elicits a meh reaction from yours truly would be a Mr. Ken Robbins. Ken apparently has a heart condition which precludes him from being an acrobat, so instead he got a job running the shows behind the scenes, controlling the set changes, special effects, and what have you. From the very first episode, he becomes one of Sora's best friends and I guess the closest thing she ever has to a love interest. But apart from the occasional bouts of moral support, he does practically nothing else in service of the plot. Heck, even Sora's other friends each get an episode devoted to exorcising the metaphorical demons of their backstories, but Ken? Not so much. The second season mixes it up with 2 rival performers, Leon Oswald, a loftier-than-thou trapeze veteran whose backstory involves a dead sister, and Mei Wong, an envious ice skater who's gunning for Sora's spotlight. Sora's conflicts, especially with these characters, highlight the struggle of performance versus technical skill. While Sora does have the goods, she is unable to nail everything that Mei, Leon, and the others are able to pull off, yet their style is cold and aloof, as if they don't even recognize the audience's existence, whereas Sora takes pleasure in making at least one of her fans smile. It really makes you think which side of the performer versus technician debate is really better. If the decision were up to me, I'd say there are benefits to both approaches, both in terms of the characters themselves and for their own story. A character who can pull off moves perfectly and effortlessly is awesome in his or her own right, even if, or perhaps because they act like they don't give a f. As for the other side of the argument, it reminds me of that fable with the starfish. As long as the character can make a difference to even just one person in the audience, then the performance, warts and all, will have been worthwhile. So what side does Kaleido start taking this argument? Well, let's just say the main character is a performer more than a technician. However, in this show, nobody's acumen is set in stone. Also, even though the conflicts in Kaleido Star are non-violent in nature, I don't think I've ever seen any antagonist who filled me with as much rage as Yuri and Leon. See, there's this one time when... Well, without wishing to spoil... I don't know if I can go through with this. Folks, let me put it to you this way. I'm a huge fan of The Simpsons.
That's good.
But there are some episodes of The Simpsons which I can just never watch again.
That's bad.
Because sometimes unfair things happen to the main characters and they don't get any decent justice for it. That's bad.
Can I go now?
Yes, you may. And I bring this up because the same is true for Kaleido Star. In an attempt to give the viewer a taste of the emotions Sora goes through, the series is rife with bittersweet moments.
For example, there's a bit where her parents visit Kaleido stage, only for her to flub her act, and then they have to head back home, thus leaving Sora with the guilt that the last impression she made on her parents was one of her not firing on all cylinders. And that's only on the first DVD! There are similar moments here and there throughout the series, but there was one episode from Season 2 which... I'm not gonna spoil it all the way, but suffice to say, it was so depressing that even to this day it's given me some form of anime watcher's PTSD. It is worth going through all that just to watch the finished acts. Like the superhuman feats of strength and spirit showcased in other genres of anime, the routines in Kaleido Star are based in reality but throw in the right pinch of exaggeration and magic that only the medium can provide to create the perfect spectacle. It also helps that they brought on the multi-talented circus performer Dio. No, not that one. Yeah, him, Atsushi Dio Kobayashi, as a special advisor. The end result is that the writers and animators know their stuff. They know the ins and outs of how each of the apparatuses are used, how the acrobats must train themselves to use them, and they also know where they can take creative liberties to create the perfect animated spectacle. Let me put it to you this way. If they made an OVA which was nothing but one full-length Kaleido stage performance, it would be like the coolest thing ever! Thankfully, the animation is up to the task of bringing it all to life where it counts, doing sweet justice to the many performance scenes. Even if other scenes get the short end of the budget, such as some training sequences relying on a series of still image overlays to show action, there are no major goofs to speak of as far as the animation is concerned. As for the voice acting, the Japanese dub has got the goods, with Ryo Hirohashi's Sora packed with the enthusiasm so inextricably associated with the character, albeit never crossing over the boundaries of sugary.
今日のオーディション絶対合格して私もカレイドスターの一員になる。
The English version, whilst by no means being of 4Kids caliber, has a few more misses. In her take on the lead role, Cynthia Martinez does keep much of the emotion of her character intact, but sounds far too young, scratchy, and, dare I say it, annoying for a lead character.
Now all I have to do is pass my audition and become a big, huge, mega superstar. I can! I shall! I will!
And rounding out his status as a meh character, John Swayze's performance as Ken is downright derpy.
空の心から失敗のイメージが消えるまで何度もね。
You'll just keep doing it right till you can't even remember having done it wrong.
I do like how the English actors for Yuri and Leon did their respective Russian and French accents, but other than that, I can't completely recommend the English dub.
You're a terrible actress, you know that?
And then there's the soundtrack. Listen, you may not think the soundtrack can make or break an anime, but trust me, it can. And in the case of Mina Kubota's score for Kaleido Star, it makes the show. The lighter scenes use cheery woodwind melodies, the more melancholy moments bring in solo horns or pianos, and the circus performances bring the whole orchestra together for an epic musical climax. In fact, I doubt certain scenes would have had half the dramatic impact if not for the music scored for them. The same cannot be said of the theme songs, however, which are pretty much your standard female-fronted J-pop fare. You've heard one, you've heard them all. If I have to pick a favorite from them, I'd choose Tattoo Kiss, used during the second season, because unlike the others, its melody has at least some texture to it, starting in a minor key only to crescendo into a major key climax. And I've dabbled in so many musical instruments when I was a kid, so trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Ah, このアニメはいいでしょうね。しかし、それを 100% 高くしまか?
Well, ain't that a tough question? Does Kaleido Star indeed deserve a perfect 100% score? And what should a perfect score mean anyway? Should it mean that the work in question has no flaws whatsoever, or that its positives are so good that they counteract whatever little negatives there may be? In the case of Kaleido Star, I do see a couple of flaws here and there. Some of the more emotional scenes are just too hard to sit through for some viewers, myself included, and of course the English dub's a little hit or miss. But let me put it to you this way. I don't know if I'll ever raise a family, but if I do, I would love to show this show to my hypothetical children. Sora Nagino is just such a great role model for anyone who has goals for their lives. It's true that outside circumstances may put a damper on those plans, but with enough diligence and the right attitude, you can power through anything life throws at you. Now that, more than anything, is the greatest compliment I could say about this show. Even more than the animation, the music, the storylines, which are all fantastic, by the way. But even if Kaleido Star's problems aren't enough to dock at some points in the end, well, that's why I invented the Dragon Award modifier. to celebrate those works which do something so amazingly and uniquely good that I simply have to recommend them despite any minor flaws.
So yeah, it's not perfect, but if you can steel yourself for a bit of heartbreak, you're in for a fantastic treat for both the eyes and the heart. And hey, if it gets you turned on to Princess Tutu, so much the better. I won't tell. All things considered, Kaleido Star scores 95%, an A, and a Dragon Award. This show is a must-see.
This is Kevin with Ichigo, and you are the Resistance. I don't always ask for subscribers, but when I do, my wings are my dreams and on towards the sky. Excuse me, who wrote that line? What's that? That's the actual ending line for every episode of Kaleido Star? Well, that sucks. Allow me to do them one better. Stay thirsty, my friends.